if you planted it in a container, would you put the caliche in the container?
Oh,
despite the
yeah, I
fact
did start talking about
that's-
that. In a container, a big container, I would get some of the mix from like the garden center or whatever, Home Depot, that's either cactus potting soil or the Southwest potting soil,
Right.
the nice drainage.
And as long as you water it with the water out of the ground rather than a water catchment system, you're going to keep that alkalinity,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because that water's going to
Yes,
constantly add.
exactly, yeah, that's good.
I have some lavender that have like 300 blooms on it. Anyways, I have sand. Is that good? I mean, we live in Wilson County, and it's all sand.
It's, I mean, really sand. And you might want to, there might be maybe too much sand in that,
Well,
but
we do amend it. We put
Yeah.
compost and stuff, but
it's not,
growing. I just didn't know that you could get 300 blooms.
well, it depends on the variety. Do you know what variety you
It
have?
looks like the one you were talking about,
Provence?
It looks like that. The leaves look like that. I was looking at the varieties they have there, and I just recently put a fern leaf type or that other type.
Right.
And it's real small and doesn't look as healthy, but it's not that old. It's only about a year old. But the other ones are real big, and I have some in shade. I didn't know they were supposed to get in the sun, but they're doing good. It's bright shade because we have live oak, so it's
Right,
really
dappled.
very.
So they're not blooming very much, is that what you're,
They have blooms, but I didn't know you could get 300 blooms.
well, that is a lot. I mean, it was, and you know, I have to say that first bloom really was the best of all of our blooms that we had, which was, you know, kind of heartbreaking. But really, you should have hundreds on a Provence, and it does need the sun. The sun is what activates the bloom, so it will need full sun. It can take it.
I thought our sun was so hot that it would kill everything, so I'll give them a try.
It just,
When you make your sachets, do you just use the flowers and the leaves and dry them, or what's the process for sachets?
Well, what we would do is we made our little drying room, and you know, it was in a garage, and it had a dehumidifier, and it had fans and things, and we'd hang them upside down, let them dry, and you know, depending on the humidity level, maybe a week or two. But then we would we've never come up with a device for this, but you just strip it by hand, which you can imagine if you have lots, your fingers, you have to the gloves and stuff. Strip it by hand like this. Mainly, it's the buds, you know, the flowers. There would be probably some leaves in there. If we were selling the cooking lavender, we would sift and sift it and get all the debris out, like some dust and some of the leaves and holes and things like that. So we would sift it. And as I should tell you is that the company I started is Hill Country Lavender, and they are out there now. We have Tasha, who started working for me at 16, and then she bought the business from us, and we're very much, I'm still connected with the business. I still, you know, offer advice or whatever, but she's getting to the point where she doesn't need my, you know, advice anymore very much. But she's out there, she's got a lot of products. I mean, we did, you know, the lavender soy candles, sachets, you know, lavender, I don't know, like 8 lavender soaps, and it go on and on. And the weirdest thing we ever sold is lavender scented colored pencils. And my husband was just like, that's just too much, Jeannie, stop now.
I have a lavender plant that's huge, it's gotten woody in the center, and if I trim it back severely,
Have you been trimming it?
not regularly.
Okay, well that would prevent too much woodiness on it. You could, you know,
Can I salvage it?
I would try, you know, in the fall, I would try trimming back and see what happens in the spring. It should do okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, just
Your farm that you sold, is that for your next seminar in June?
yes, in June it'll be.
What is it called?
It's lavender growing seminar. It's June 13th on Friday, and it is that's the day before the Blanco Lavender Festival. And you can go to the website hillcountrylavender.com, and it'll have all the information on that. And any more questions about growing? Yeah.
How much water does it need, and is it drought tolerant?
It's very drought tolerant, yes. And so obviously when you plant it, you water it in, but after that, I always tell people err on the side of too little water versus too much. And so, obviously I think you're gonna know when it's, but it's less than you think normally, unless it's just crazy drought. The soil has been dry for months, and then you have to kind of judge it.
I should ask you before, okay, since I already have the chick, can you transplant them when they're really big, or forget it?
We didn't have luck transplanting, so I'm sorry to say. I would try to find a new place. I mean, if they're growing and they're beautiful green pom-pom, there's green and there's health. It's just, I know you don't have the...
Flowers. I didn't know they had that.
How do you propagate, from seed or cuttings or what?
Because it's a hybrid, the Provence. And most any of the varieties have better luck with cuttings than seeds.
Last summer, we had so much rain. And so in the fall into the winter months, I noticed my plants were really, really stressed. At the bottom, the leaves dried up and turned black. And I didn't know if that was from the water or disease, so I just let them alone. And they kind of cleared up. Would that have been a sign of too much water?
Yes, there's something called rhizoctonia. That's what happens in the fungus when it gets too much water. So, and normally it'll kill the plant, but
It came back.
Yours came back.
I put some cornmeal.
That's the best treatment. I mean, the organic treatment. That's a great organic treatment for it. There's also something called plant shield when you plant to drench the roots when you're planting to prevent the rhizoctonia from the fungus from affecting the roots. So, but you did the cornmeal is a great option. So that's good.
So it did work.
Good instincts on that. So anyway, now I wanted to tell you just a little bit. The book that I wrote is about, there's a lot about lavender gardening, but it's also about how the story of I used to live in New York City, Manhattan, and then ended up in rural Texas on a lavender farm. So that's part of the whole story. And I'm going to be here signing books if you want it. It's great for garden lovers or just people who like stories of transformation because
How much?
it's $23.95, right? Well, with tax, this is the Twig. You probably know the Twig bookstore. They're the ones selling it.
$25.81.
And also, I'm just so you know, I'm going to be at the Twig. Also, I'm going to do a book tour. I'm going to be in New York and South Carolina, and then about a week in Texas. And I'm going to be at the Twig doing a reading June 11th at 10:30 in the morning. So that's another option. And if you want, I can pass the books around or whatever. If you wanted to see, I'll show you one and then I'll give one. Anyway, so other questions or?
Deer resistance?
Deer resistant.
I can't believe it. Say it again.
Deer resistant. Deer resistant. Deer resistant. We have the big, we ended up in the end, we had about 12,000 plants planted and never had a deer problem. I know we've had people from our seminar saying, well, we had a deer problem, and hungry deers, or it was by a water source, it was during a drought, I don't know, but we never had a gate or a fence around anything, so.
And do you sell the plants, or does your firm sell the plants?
She doesn't have any now, but up at the Blanco Lavender Festival, the 14th and 15th, and she's also open every weekend now. She's starting now. She's opened the farm. It's up on 281, 3.5 miles north of Blanco is the farm now, because we sold our house and moved the farm and whatever. Sold the farm, as I said. So, anything else?
You say too much water can have to. Does it show signs when you get too much?
it gets that black. It kind of starts getting black, very dark die off, which is an indication of the dark or dark gray, that kind of thing, shriveled leaves. But I'm so glad that you had the success with the cornmeal, because that's such a good thing for it. Okay, is there anything else, or we'll visit the lavender booth there, and if you want, I'll be over here, and if you're interested in a book or something. Okay?
Thank you.